Understanding the fundamentals of GRC is crucial for anyone working in roles related to GRC, whether it's in finance, audit, IT, or any other field. GRC, which I will delve into further, is a framework that helps organizations manage their operations effectively while ensuring they meet legal and regulatory requirements, mitigate risk, and align with their strategic objectives. It's therefore critical for you as a cybersecurity or GRC professional to understand these fundamental concepts. So why GRC? Before jumping right into what GRC is, let's look at the why behind GRC. So as illustrated by OSEG, which I'll discuss more as we go along in this course, this is the current state of most organizations without a GRC framework or a GRC structure or a GRC program in place. In the past, organizations often approach governance, risk, and compliance as separate activities. Processes or systems frequently were created in response to a specific event. Example, there are situations where you have new regulations, you have litigations, possibly a data breach or audit findings with little thought as to how that worked within the whole picture. Now, the results were a maze of inefficiencies that you're actually looking at based on this illustration. You have redundancies and also inaccuracies. And all of these actually led to a number of challenges. We're talking about the lack of visibility into the complete risk landscape, conflicting actions, unnecessary complexities, the inability to assess, very importantly, the cascading effects of risk. Now, managing GRC in separate silos is a lot of extra effort. And that is what is happening based on this illustration. Everyone is doing their own thing, operating without that consciousness of the overall objectives of the organization. So managing GRC in separate silos is a lot of extra work that produces very little reward as it relates to the overall operations of that business. So without an integrated view of all GRC integrated activities, it's nearly impossible to identify issues and inconsistencies within the overall processes of that organization. And very important is the fact that a damaging risk can easily slip by undetected and also unaddressed because you did not gauge the full impact until it was too late. So what is GRC? Now that you understand the why behind GRC, then what exactly is GRC? Now, the acronym GRC was coined some 2 decades ago in 2002 by OSEG. And OSEG, which is the Open Compliance and Ethics Group, stands for Governance, Risk, and Compliance. And according to OSEG, GRC is the integrated collection of capabilities that enable an organization to achieve principled performance. And I know this might be a little bit confusing for you initially. So the ability to reliably achieve objectives and address uncertainty and act with integrity. That's the OSEG definition for governance, risk, and compliance. So another way to look at GRC is that GRC is a structured way to align IT with business goal while managing risk and meeting all industry and government regulations. So going back, so that's the logo for OSEG, and the main components are governance, risk, and compliance. So in a nutshell, when you talk about governance, you're looking at aligning processes and actions with the organization's business goals. Risk at a high level is identifying and addressing all of the organization's risks, while compliance is ensuring all activities meet legal and regulatory requirements. So with that understanding, then companies use GRC to achieve organizational goals, reliably remove uncertainty, and meet compliance requirements. So let's look at each of these elements of GRC in terms of governance, risk, and compliance a little bit more in depth so that you get that concrete understanding of these terms. So as it relates to governance, and all of these elements are actually subject areas in of themselves that you can actually deep dive in terms of building your skill set as to the various governance frameworks that exist and how it is that you actually execute governance and build governance structures within organizations. So governance, in the simplest way, is a set of policies, rules, or frameworks that a company uses to achieve its business goals. Governance defines the responsibilities of key stakeholders, such as the board of directors and senior management. For example, good corporate governance supports your team in including the company's social responsibility policy in their plans. Now, good governance include, for example, ethics and accountability, transparent information sharing, conflict resolution policies, and resource management. So that's in a nutshell for governance. So as it relates to risk management, so as it relates to risk management, very importantly, it's all about managing risk within organizations. From a cybersecurity or GRC perspective, risk management is key. So businesses face different types of risk, including financial risk. You have legal risk, strategic risk, and security risk. And all of these operates at an enterprise as well as various departmental levels within an organization. So proper risk management, and this is a skill set that I highly recommend that you deep dive in terms of building your skill set along that way. So proper risk management helps businesses identify these risks and find ways to remediate any that are found. So companies use an enterprise risk management program to predict potential problems and minimize losses. For example, you can use risk assessment to find security loopholes in your computer systems and apply various patches or fixes. Risk management in GRC involves identifying, assessing, and mitigating risks that could impact the organization's objectives. It also includes identifying, assessing, and mitigating risk, executing risk assessment, risk mitigation, risk monitoring, and also risk reporting. Learning how to identify and manage risk effectively is super critical for safeguarding an organization's interests. So that's for risk management. Now, as it relates to compliance, the C element of GRC, compliance is an act of following rules, laws, and regulations, and it applies to legal and regulatory requirements set by industrial bodies and also for internal corporate policies. In GRC, compliance involves implementing procedures to ensure that businesses activities comply with the respective regulations. For example, healthcare organizations must comply with laws like HIPAA that protects patients' privacy. And this involves activities such as compliance compliance assessment, audits, and reporting. Understanding compliance requirements and ensuring the organization meets them is vital to avoiding legal and financial penalties. Why is GRC important? Simply because we need organizations to be operating in this future state as illustrated by OSEG. Now, by implementing GRC programs, businesses can make better decisions in risk-aware environments. An effective GRC program helps key stakeholders set policies from a shared perspective and comply with regulatory requirements. So with GRC, the entire company comes together in its policies, its decisions and actions. Achieving this state that we're looking at, this is the ideal state for any organization. And if you can recall the previous illustration, when there is no GRC, when there's no structure within an organization, then you have a lot of chaos, which results in unproductivity and more sort of risk that leads to a lot of challenges that affects the organization in terms of compliance regulations. So with GRC, the entire company comes together in its policies, its decisions, and also its actions. Now, achieving this state, and this is where your skill as a GRC professional are required. A number of benefits can be derived by developing GRC capabilities within organizations. We're talking about a data-driven decision making. So you can make data-driven decisions within a shorter time frame by monitoring your resources, setting up rules or frameworks, and using necessary GRC tools. We're talking about responsible operations. With the help of GRC, then GRC streamlines operations around a common culture that promotes ethical values and creates a healthy environment for growth. And it also guides a strong organizational cultural development and ethical decisions making in the organization. We also have improved cybersecurity. So with an integrated GRC approach, businesses can employ data security measures to protect customer data and provide information, and also protect private information within that organization. Implementing a GRC strategy is therefore essential for your organization due to the increasing cyber risk that threatens the user's data and privacy. And it also helps organizations comply with data privacy regulations like GDPR. With a GRC IT strategy, you build customer trust and protect your business from penalties. So along with developing your overall GRC program within these organizations, you also have your GRC strategies. And these are various elements of GRC. These are some of the tasks that you'll be required to do in terms of building GRC strategies, GRC programs, and the list goes on within these organizations. So that's the importance behind or the why behind GRC. So with that said, then what actually drives the implementation of GRC within organization? What drives the implementation? So there are a number of important elements that drive the need for GRC implementation as a structured program or framework within organizations, which may include things such as business needing to comply with a new or updated regulatory requirements. We're talking about companies needing data privacy and protection, companies facing more uncertainties in the modern business landscape, risk management costs increasing at an unprecedented rate. We're also talking about internet connectivity, which introduces cyber risks that might compromise data storage security. So these are challenges that create demand for a strategy to navigate businesses toward their goals. Conventional third-party risk management and regulatory compliance methods are simply not enough. Hence, GRC was introduced as a unified approach to help stakeholders make accurate decisions. So you recognize at this point that being a GRC professional is a very highly sorted after skill set. This is a very, I would say, in today's environment, a sweet spot to be in within the cybersecurity industry. How does GRC work? That's very important. How does GRC work within organizations? So GRC in any organization works on a number of principles. And very first principle is key stakeholders. So going back to our GRC OSEG illustration, then GRC requires cross-functional collaboration across different departments that practices governance, risk management, and regulatory compliance. And some examples include, for example, senior executives who assess risk when making strategic decisions. We have legal teams who help businesses mitigate legal exposures. We also have finance managers who support compliance with regulatory requirements, HR executives who deal with confidential recruitment information, IT departments that protect data from cyber threats. In addition, we have the GRC framework. So all of these are the components that actually make GRC work within an organization. So you have key stakeholders, your GRC framework, and as it relates to GRC framework, then this is a model for managing governance and compliance risk in a company. It involves identifying the key policies that can drive the company toward its goals. By adopting a GRC framework, you can take a proactive approach to mitigating risk, making well-informed decisions, and ensuring business continuity. Companies also implement GRC by adopting GRC frameworks that contain key policies that align with the organization's strategic objectives. Key stakeholders base their work on a shared understanding from the GRC framework as they devise policies, structure workflows, and govern the company. Companies might use software and tools to coordinate and monitor the success for GRC frameworks. Then we also have the GRC maturity. So GRC maturity is the level of integration of governance, risk management, and compliance within an organization. And you achieve a high level of GRC maturity when a well-planned GRC strategy results in cost efficiency, productivity, and effectiveness in risk mitigation. Meanwhile, a low level of GRC maturity is unproductive and keeps businesses units working in silos. And that is what you are trying to alleviate as a GRC professional, to remove silos and to create a cohesive workforce as is depicted by this OSEG illustration. What is the GRC capability model? So according to OSEG, the GRC capability model contains guidelines that help companies implement GRC and achieve principled performance. So guys, this is a very critical element of GRC. And I'll be placing a link to all of these resources in this course that you can deep dive into these necessary information to build your skill set. So learning and understanding this model in depth and being able to apply this to organization will tremendously make a difference in terms of their overall GRC capability. So as it relates to this model, then this model, which is the GRC Capability Model, ensures a common understanding of communication, policies, and training. You, the GRC professional, can take a cohesive and structured approach to incorporate GRC operations across your organization. Now, this model is broken down into 4 categories, as you're seeing. So you have the learn, the align, the perform, and the review. So as it relates to learn, then you learn about the context, values, and culture of your company or organization so that you can define strategies and actions that reliably achieve objectives. As it relates to align, then you ensure your strategy, actions, and objectives are in alignment. And you do so by considering opportunities, threats, values, and requirements when making decisions. As it relates to perform, then GRC encourages you to take actions that bring results, avoid those that hinder goals, and monitor your operations to detect sudden changes. And the last one in the model is review. So you're required to revisit your strategy and actions to ensure they're aligned with the business goals. For example, regulatory changes could require a change of approach. And this is a model, as I've mentioned, that you want to examine, you want to take apart to understand each of these elements, what is required, how it is that they are implemented and applied to organization in developing their overall GRC capabilities. So now that you have an understanding of the model itself, then the next thing that you would want to understand as it relates to those fundamentals are the challenges of GRC implementation. So implementing a GRC program or framework in any organization is not without its fair share of challenges. Businesses might face challenges when they integrate GRC components into organizational activities. So some of these challenges that you will come across as it relates to helping to build and develop GRC capabilities within organizations, you're going to have resistance to change. You're going to have people who are accustomed to doing things the regular ways that they have been doing things over these years within these organizations. So the organizational politics, all of these will come into play. So going back to the fact that change management as it relates to GRC. Now, GRC reports provide insights that guide businesses to make accurate decisions, which helps in fast-changing business environments. However, companies need to invest in change management program to act quickly based on GRC insights. Other challenge, we have data management. And this is where companies have long been operating by keeping departmental functions separated. Each department generates and stores its own data. GRC works by combining all the data within an organization. And this results in duplicate data and introduces challenges in managing the information. We also have the lack of a total GRC framework. So a complete GRC framework integrates business activities with GRC components. It serves the changing business environment, particularly when you are dealing with new regulations. Without a seamless integration, your GRC implementation is likely to be fragmented and ineffective. We're also talking about ethical culture development. So this has to do with the fact that it takes great effort to get every employee to share an ethically compliant culture. Senior executives must set the tone of transformation and ensure that information is passed through all layers of the organization. Then we have clarity in information. That's communication. That's also another challenge to implementation. So The success of GRC implementation depends on seamless communication. Information sharing must be transparent between GRC compliance teams, stakeholders, and employees. And this makes activities like creating policies, planning, and decision making easier. Now, armed with this fundamental information, looking at all of those fundamentals, then you are now on your way to helping organizations operate more cohesively to break down silos and minimize risk to operations at an enterprise level. That's very important, understanding all of these fundamentals. So very important is the fact that the links to all the information that I've shared will be placed in the description. So please go to the description of this course so that you are able to access all of these material that I've presented in depth for you to gain further insights into all of these fundamentals. And very importantly, if you want to take your GRC skills to the next level, then I also have placed a link to all of my Udemy courses designed specifically with you in mind. Just to give you an idea of some of these resources. So if it is that you want to build your skill set in terms of being able to conduct various practical assessment, and these are also skill sets of a GRC and a cybersecurity professional will be required to conduct various assessments, applying those best practices to cybersecurity and GRC tasks, building out the overall cybersecurity and GRC programs in your organizations, your IT auditing fundamentals, developing various cybersecurity strategies, executing various compliance management tasks as a GRC professional within these organizations. So I strongly recommend that you take the time to deep dive and to take your career to the next level.